Hi, everyone. I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
I'd like to welcome you to our Chipola Fifth Quarter podcast. We're so excited that Chipola is sponsoring this podcast. One, we get a film from this really cool studio on our main campus in Marianna, Florida. And also, we get to talk about things that apply to our programs at Chipola College. Leadership, business, even we're going to bring out some technology in some coming podcasts. So it's neat to see the application of what we talk about in the classroom and what happens, say, on the field of football or just in the marketplace, and we can connect those two. One thing that's really exciting is we've had many students, a good handful, go pro. We have some really good sports programs, and shout out to the basketball teams,
Absolutely.
state champions, way to go. So we have many that go pro, and then they look at for other considerations. So if you ever want to coach at any level, consider doing our bachelor's program. We have a bachelor's program in management, and it really focuses on leadership concepts. And we've had those who have great experience in athletics looking for something to do as they transition. And finishing our program or starting it online, you can finish it online. You can do it anywhere in the world. So consider that if you have an interest in coaching. And we bring up that point because really this is the time of the year where coaching and planning comes into play. And I think, Rob, you got some thoughts in that vein really tied to the college ball game.
Yeah. So we had a couple weeks off, last week. It's good every once in a while to take a brain break, and it kind of served its purpose. They needed to do some maintenance here. And it gave me some time to research some content, continuing our conversation from 2 weeks ago about the top 25 rankings in college football. Off-season preparations, let's break down the next 4 or 5 on this list. So we talked about the first 4. Let's start with number 5, Iowa State. They finished 9-3 in the 2020 season. Very unheard of for a Big 12 school.
Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State, the Cyclones.
Yeah, University of Iowa. They'll compete, but Iowa State, they're making a move.
Right. So they finished 9-3 in 2020, finishing also in the top 10 AP poll. They won the Fiesta Bowl and produced a All-American running back in Brees Hall was his name. Put him in the mix along with quarterback Brock Purdy coming back this season and Coach Matt Campbell returning. You've got possibly, the NCAA is saying this is possibly going to be the most hyped season for the Cyclones to date.
That's exciting. So are they thinking maybe they'll get a kind of one of the top bowl picks for the championship weekend? Or?
To be honest with you, I don't know that I would bet on it. Like I said, COVID, when COVID hit last year, I think it put a lot of teams on the map that normally otherwise during a regular year, if you will.
So we need to see what happens.
Yeah, we really need to see what happens. Their first game September the 11th against Iowa. To be honest with you, I think them finishing 9-3 is notable. I mean, it's really notable. I congratulate them on it, but let's be realistic. You consider with everything that happened last year, I think it just worked out in their favor. Do I look for them to make it back to a bowl game? Yes. I could see Iowa State's program picking up. They had Gene Chizik come through there a few years back. He went on to Auburn and won them a national title with Cam Newton.
So maybe they're looking at the Gator Bowl or the Citrus Bowl?
I mean, it could be one of those bowls. I don't know that I would go thinking Rose Bowl or bust if I'm Iowa State because, like I said, 2020 was an odd year for sports and everything else. We'll see what plays out with Iowa State. I know that game against Iowa is going to tell the tale.
It will.
Big in-state rivals.
That's right.
So moving on to number 6, Ohio State, finishing 7-1 in 2020 and number 2 in the final AP poll. Here's my critical analysis, if you will. With quarterback Justin Fields declaring for the NFL draft, now they're down a quarterback. Ohio State is expected to remain a top contender in the Big Ten Conference. So there's still some hype surrounding the team. There's still some hype surrounding what their expectations are going into this season.
But they have always had backup quarterbacks on the bench who are ready to go, people you hadn't really heard of that show up and you're like, whoa, that's a number 1 draft pick.
Well, I give them that, but here's the thing. You're only as strong as your bench is. The quarterback alone is not going to take care of business by himself. You got to have a few wide receivers, a tight end or two, and maybe a running back to kind of game plan and get things going on the field. So we'll see how that pops off for them going into 2021. To be honest with you, I'm not a big Ohio State guy. It's hard for me to respect them because you figure.
Don't make it personal now.
No, I'm trying not to, man. I'm trying really hard to be professional because the camera's rolling. So what I would say about Ohio State is this:
They win.
Right, they win. But
Are you a Michigan fan at heart?
Oh, no, man. I don't know that I could go for the Blue Wave. I mean, I pulled for Michigan during that game. I got to admit that. But Ohio State, another one of those teams kind of like Iowa State. Every, 5 or 6 years or so, maybe a little longer, you'll see Ohio State's name get thrown out into the mix. As far as overall as a team, I think with COVID and everything happening like it did last year, they didn't play a full season, if you will. So it's very hard for me to take a team like that seriously that did not play a full season compared to an Alabama that played a full 12-game season. And I get that there were different conferences in different areas of the United States that were affected, and they decided whether to play or not to play or cut a game
Could you
short.
imagine a championship game with Georgia and Alabama or the Gators in Alabama? That'd have been tough.
Oh, man, that
Probably would have been more enjoyable to watch.
Possibly, but you and I both knew when Ohio State Alabama was the matchup. I think it was pretty clear that who was going to win that one.
It was worse than I thought.
Oh, absolutely. So my take on that is they didn't play a full season due to COVID versus other teams that opted to play a full season. So we'll really never know what a full 12-game season Ohio State team could have looked like last season.
But we'll know coming up, though.
We'll know coming
Just
up.
like Iowa State, we'll kind of see what happens.
Possibly. And I know this is going to be a little harsh. I look for them to finish maybe 500 on the season.
I like your thought possibly because with Iowa State, they play Iowa right out of the chute, whereas Ohio State, as you were saying earlier, and if you didn't say it, you were alluding to it, they don't really play anybody. So you're not going to know. So that's your possibly thought, I'm guessing.
Right. And for Ohio State, I look for them to finish 500. I know that comes across as, man, how can you say that, based on what they did last season? Well, that's on what they did last season. They don't have Justin Fields. So now they're going to have a replacement QB. Barring that they find a suitable replacement off the bench. Now, I may have to eat crow on this. They may find a suitable replacement, come in, knock out 8 or 9 wins, and possibly secure a spot in the playoffs. So we'll see how that plays out. I look for them to finish 500, a bowl game for sure, but I don't expect them to go any further than that.
What's tough with their path is that if they just lose one game, which is hard to do, that they don't play the SEC teams,
Right.
that should they still get a nod with one loss? And I would say an SEC team with one loss, Ohio State with one loss, they aren't the same.
Absolutely, but if what's good for the goose is good for the gander, isn't that the old saying? So here's what I would say.
We got to throw in ACC as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what I would say is if you're going to give a one-loss Alabama team the nod, which they've gotten in recent years, give Ohio State the nod if that's the case. I mean, I'm a big proponent of if it's good enough for one team, it should be good enough for another team. You remember the whole controversy a few years back about the BCS, and then they finally got rid of the BCS, implemented the playoff system to get rid of a lot of the concerns that fans had about the BCS and the computer rankings. Now here we are, not even 10 years later, like 5-6 years later, and everybody's complaining about the playoff rankings of the committee. There's no way to please people. I mean, you just got to let
I think if they
the system.
made it go to 6, that could help a lot.
Yeah, but then what you're going to have is
You got to play in game.
Right, you got to play, but it's like you're going to start competing with the NFL now.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's just that's going to be a mess. That's all I'm going to say about that. Is I feel like if they expand now, would I watch it? Absolutely. You expand the college football playoffs from 4 to 6. Yeah, you're gonna garner a lot more views.
They'd make some more money for the colleges,
more money,
more scholarships.
But then is the integrity maintained?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. It's
So
different.
now, you got a whole committee that's
Yeah.
deciding. So you go from 4 to 6 spots. Who gets the extra 2 spots? That's going to cause an
It
argument.
would have done some neat stuff in the past, like UCF would have got a nod
yeah.
a couple years
Yeah.
ago.
Which they still say that they're the undefeated national champions for the.
I think AP had him as a co-national champ that year.
Hey, I mean, teach his own. I mean, if it's your world, live in it, right? So moving on to number 7, Texas A&M. Boy, this is going to be a tough one, but let's break this down. They finished 9-1 in 2020, which was really impressive considering Texas A&M's recent last 10 years or so, finishing number 4 in the final AP poll. They just barely missed out on the playoffs, but went on to outscore North Carolina by 2 touchdowns in an Orange Bowl victory. With Jimbo Fisher at the helm, he's got the program turned around. I'll give him that. But a QB is going to be a problem, and a new offensive line going into 2021. I don't look for A&M to have near the success this season that they did last season.
So, wow, bringing it home, isn't there some kind of FSU A&M connection? What is that again?
Man, I was trying to burn that bridge, but here you are rebuilding it right behind me. Yeah.
So with Bo, right?
Yeah. So it's tough, but you want to give credit where it's due. He's really done a lot with that program. My hat's off to him. But my take on it is last year was the year for them to make a statement.
If there'd have been 6, they would have got one in 6.
Absolutely.
They were right there.
Right there.
And they could have been better than Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, Florida.
Yeah, but
Was Ohio State to beat Florida?
no, I want to say it was LSU,
Okay.
Oklahoma.
somebody in kind of the play-in game, if you
Yeah,
will.
I want to say it was Oklahoma. I think that's
Yeah,
who we're thinking
but
about.
that's where
Bowl game.
the
Yep.
Heisman player did well, the
Yep.
quarterback, and then he kind of lost it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
just
so it's hurt his draft capability too.
well, and your mental focus just kind of gets off balance too.
Anybody, yeah, that's
Yeah,
only the elite could stay focused.
unless you're
And
Brady.
what?
Unless you're Brady.
That's what I was gonna say. That's right.
Great minds
But he's
think alike.
elite, though.
Hey,
Yeah.
you're right. So my thing is, they've got a new, inexperienced offensive line coming into the 2021 season.
This is A&M.
Yeah, we're still talking
Yeah.
about A&M. We're just going to throw it out there. Last year was the year for them to make a statement. If we're being completely honest, last year was the year. Now you've lost your whole offensive line. You got to start over with a bunch of young guys, and you've got to start over with a new QB. I mean, how's it going to work out? Jimbo's no stranger to rebuilding, but is it going to work out for him?
Now, was he there coaching when Johnny was there at quarterback?
No.
Okay, because that could have been their year too.
Yeah, possibly, but
That was before him.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Jimbo was at Florida State still then.
Okay.
And A&M, man, my hat's off to some of the Texas teams. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I like watching a little Big 12 football. Whenever the Longhorns or the Red Raiders, A&M, it don't matter who it is, Oklahoma, when they get together in the Big 12, and I see some of their matchups, I love watching some Big 12 football.
And TCU can pull out some wins.
Yeah, TCU's no stranger. Every once in a while, you got Baylor that's known to pull out some wins.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But A&M, man, that last year was their year. They didn't pull it off, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. So we'll see how they do going into 2021. Moving on to number 8, Cincinnati finishing 9-1 in 2020.
Impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. They finished 8th in the final AP poll. They came very close to finishing undefeated.
That would have gotten them a bid, I would have think.
Absolutely. Their season ended with a late field goal loss to Georgia in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
Almost beat.
Georgia's tough.
Georgia is tough. But to lose by a late field goal to the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is something else I'm going to admit. People have always asked me, oh, do you have a second favorite team? I'm an old fan, no doubt about it, no question. But whenever Florida State's not playing, I've always rooted for Georgia.
I thought you were going to say Cincinnati.
Oh, no, man. No, I have honestly rooted for the Bulldogs whenever Florida State's not playing. Everybody likes watching some good football games, and everybody likes rooting for a different team whenever their team's not playing. I love, rooting on Georgia. I always have. That's the way I've always been. But
You just like them to beat the Gators, probably.
Oh man, if you narrow it down to an Alabama fan or a Florida fan, we got problems. A lot of people, they do what's it called, bandwagon. I mean, let's just call it what it is. When Alabama first started winning their national championships, you seen bandwagon fans come out of the woodworks, man.
A lot of bumper stickers.
Oh yeah,
window decals.
Yeah, it's like, man, wait a minute. You ain't no Alabama fan. Yes, I am. My third cousin lives 2 miles outside of Dothan. Okay, so that qualifies you to be an Alabama fan now. Anyway, I'm gonna get off that. But to see Cincinnati, man, lose to a team like Georgia. Late field goal, man. My hat's off to them. Cincinnati should have pulled that one out.
They should play Ohio State. Only about 2 hours from Ohio State.
Well, something else to
I
consider.
think they'd beat Ohio State.
They give them a run for their money, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of people say, "Well, what's the University of Cincinnati? They don't produce no players." Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs. That's his alma mater. Something to keep in mind. My take going into 2021, I say they finish with 9 wins or better, make it back to a bowl game, and finish with a victory. I don't look for them to make a playoff spot. Again, COVID kind of hyped everything up, and a lot of teams got a bid that I don't think would have been in there in any normal year. But my take on it is, I say 9 wins or better. I'm gonna seal that in stone. 9 wins or better, and they're definitely going to make a bowl game if they keep their head on straight. Come back out and play hard. Moving on to number 9, Indiana, finishing 6-2 in 2020.
Unheard of. That's a basketball school.
Yeah, man, finishing 8 in the final AP poll. I don't have much to say about
You
Indiana.
think it's COVID, maybe?
Possibly. I mean, they're a big basketball school, but
Most certainly.
yeah, here you see their football program kind of picking up. Their middle linebacker and QB are returning. They did surprise a lot of people in 2020. They got some key players.
Now they're Big Ten, right?
Yeah, I want to say
So
they're
that Ohio State area.
yeah,
So they
Big Ten. Oh no, yeah, Big 10, Big
they
12.
rename it something.
Big
Yeah,
10, Big
yeah.
12, something like that. I don't look for them to have the same success this season that they did last season. Just my opinion. What's your take on that?
Wow, Indiana, that's really good for football to see a team like Indiana kind of come out of nowhere. Ohio State, not Ohio State, Iowa State, excuse me.
Yeah.
See teams like that who don't really get a nod or get a look. That really makes you stop and want to watch a game and see someone play outside the ACC or the SEC.
Oh, absolutely. And these big basketball schools, their football programs are really starting to pick it up. North Carolina, look at them making a splash. Mac Brown back at his alma mater, was over at Texas, brought them their national championship back in 06 with Vince Young. And now you see a lot of these basketball schools starting to pick it up. Indiana, You got even Kentucky. Kentucky's had a couple decent seasons, and they're a big basketball school.
Northwestern's winning some games
Oh
of football.
man, what are you talking
That's
about?
an academic.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like every dog has his day, right? So
Right.
you see a lot of schools coming out of the
Okay.
woodworks, really starting to pick it up. And number 10, Iowa. The 6-2 record in 2020, finishing 16 in the final AP poll. Quietly put together an 0-2 start. A lot of people didn't pay attention to them, but their offense was expected and is expected to be strong as their QB, running back, and center are returning, in addition to a linebacker and defensive end. They're a solid team.
I was always there.
Right, they're always there. I will say they're a solid team. I don't think they're going to be Iowa State. I about said Ohio State. I don't think they're going to beat Iowa State going into 2021.
So whoever wins that game could be the rival for Ohio State.
That's going to be the tail of the tape,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you. I don't see Iowa finishing in the top 10 at the end of this season. Maybe 500 in a bowl game. I'll give them that. But I don't look for them to be strong enough to beat their in-state rival, Iowa State, the Cyclones. And like I said, man, COVID put a lot of no-name teams on the map last year. And I think a lot of those teams had their one-year wonder. I don't expect a lot of these teams, and I'll eat crow. If I'm wrong, I'll eat crow. But I don't expect a lot of these teams to repeat the success that they had in 2020. And to wrap this episode up, FSU, man, I can't leave us out. Now,
A local team.
Yeah, local team. Now we're not in the rankings, obviously. Had the spring game. Yep.
Obviously.
Yep, obviously. Had the spring game last week. Defense has really stepped it up. Offense needs a little work, a little tune-up.
Well, defense can keep it close.
Right, defense wins championships,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah,
That's
we've
right.
said this before.
Yeah.
I
I
bet
think it was
you.
a Packer that said that. Maybe was it Lombardi?
Uh,
Someone said it.
was his name Dave? Oh, it was you.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So we brought in 8 transfers for the 2021 season. I bet you weren't aware of that. So got word today we brought in 8 transfers for the 2021 season, and out of those 8, 5 of them are from SEC schools.
Wow.
Yes. Here we go.
Why do you think they're kind of jumping?
Look, man, I believe a lot of players at these SEC schools are not getting any playing time, so they're wanting to go to
Okay.
FSU, or they may want to come to a program like FSU and help build it back up.
Yeah.
So, like I said, out of the 8, 5 of them are from SEC schools such as Georgia, Auburn, South Carolina, Arkansas. 2 are from UCF, Mackenzie Milton, and one other whose name escapes me at the moment, and then 1 from Colorado State. And among the list of the transfers, there's a QB, a running back, 2 defensive ends, and the rest are defensive backs. The running back is from Auburn. So I think FSU, man, I give I give Norvell the length of a contract. I said this 2 weeks ago.
How long is his contract?
Normally, coaches' contracts are like four years,
4
4 or 5
So he's
years.
in year 2 right now.
Yeah, year
Okay.
2. And I
That's
said,
kind of like last year shouldn't really count. COVID,
right. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of getting stuff up
Yeah.
off the ground. But give us 4 years.
Okay.
Give us 4 years.
For a bowl game?
I
Or-
wouldn't say a bowl game. Give us 4 years before we're in the ACC championship. I believe that's
Okay.
what I said.
Wow.
I'll have to go back and look at
Wow.
that last episode that we had filmed. But I say 4 years, and we have a chance to make it back to the ACC. Clemson's already on the decline.
Miami, they're
Miami's starting to step it
Yeah,
up.
they are. They're pushing.
They're number 2 in the power rankings behind Clemson. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. But I could see this Florida State team, if they'll stay humble and hungry and under the leadership of Norvell, I could see them doing great things in the next 4 to 5 years. And barring that they'll put their trust in the coaching staff and allow them to do their job. And like I said, stay out of trouble, stay out of the limelight, all the intangibles and stuff that goes on off the field.
it's good best practices.
Right, absolutely.
Regardless of what you're
right. Keep your grades up. Show up to practice. Do what is expected of you. I don't see no reason why these Florida State Seminoles in the next 4 years aren't playing in an ACC championship. I tell you what, I'd love to see. Probably never see it again. I'd love to see Florida State and Miami for an ACC championship.
Wow.
Because the Florida State-Miami rivalry is unlike anything that we've ever seen. It really kicked off in like the 80s and 90s. Bobby and Jimmy Johnson and all those guys really hyped that up. And that rivalry has been something that's been special to me. Even when I was a kid, it was Florida State-Miami, Florida State-Miami. Miami used to be the talk of the town. Then Florida State was the talk of the town in the 90s. And then, the early 2000s, we kind of faded away. Miami kind of faded away. And what goes around comes back around. I would love to see the day, though, when Florida State and Miami are back on top. I'd love to see the ACC return to that once decade of dominance.
That's great. 2 Florida teams also.
Oh, absolutely, man. You
Well,
best
Rob,
believe.
nice work, man.
Absolutely, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
And Lord willing, we'll see you guys next week.